Mock Draft Monday is back, and we have a dueling first round mock. I have the odd picks. Keith has the evens. Two receivers go inside the top 10. We're going to talk about that and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. I am an offensive draft analyst over with Bleacher Report. That's my guy, Keith Sanchez. He is the director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with those LSU Tigers. And as always, guys, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our every Dayers Mock Draft Monday is back. We did a dueling mock draft. I took the odd picks. Keith took the even picks. We're going to get into all 32 and talk about it. Guys, two wide receivers went in the top 10. Did Travis Hunter slip a little bit down the board? Is there a new RB1 in this mock draft? And then we're going to talk about the best defensive picks at the end. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Again, just so everybody knows, I took the odd picks. Keith took the even picks. We did the whole first round. Let's get into it. At number 1, the Tennessee Titans select quarterback out of Miami, Cam Ward. At pick number 2, the Cleveland Browns select Abdul Carter, edge rusher out of Penn State. Pick number 3, the New York Giants select quarterback out of Colorado, Shedeur Sanders. At pick number 4, the New England Patriots select offensive lineman from LSU, Will Campbell. At number 5, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Travis Hunter, cornerback, wide receiver out of Colorado. At pick number 6, the Las Vegas Raiders select wide receiver from Arizona, Tetaiora McMillan. At pick number 7, the New York Jets select Mason Graham, interior defensive lineman out of Michigan. At pick number 8, Matthew Golden to the Carolina Panthers, wide receiver out of Texas. Pick number 9, Armand Membo, offensive tackle from Missouri, for the New Orleans Saints. And at pick number 10, Josh Simmons, offensive tackle from Ohio State to the Chicago Bears. Keith, let's talk about pick. We've talked about Cam and Shedeur so much on this show.
Mm-hmm.
Pick number 2. Why did you decide? Because you had the even, so that was your first pick of the draft. Why did you decide to? I know Cleveland Browns fans seeing this and listening to this are like, okay, we just paid Myles Garrett, so we're good at we got our guy. If we lost Myles, they will understand it. Why did you decide to pass on Shedeur at 2 with the need at quarterback and taking Abdul Carter?
Yeah, I think this is a reflection of the kind of the current status of the pursuit of veterans, like what the quarterback situation is going to be, and honestly going with more of a sure thing, right? As the Cleveland Browns kind of rebuild, I feel as though you can plug and play Abdul Carter immediately, right? Like he plays multiple things within the defense. Like everybody gets excited about Myles Garrett. You know how he kind of started the little kind of basketball crossover thing over the center, right? Doing that and then rushing the center. Well, Abdul Carter can do some things too. And then so you give yourself probably one of the best defensive fronts in the NFL, and then continue to figure out the quarterback situation. I think the Cleveland Browns as currently constructed, I don't think they're one quarterback away. And if you don't feel like you're one quarterback away, I mean, why not take Abdul Carter? I seriously considered Shedeur, but I think they also have to revamp this wide receiver core now too, because I mean, we liked it when they had Amari Cooper and a couple of those guys, but Amari Cooper is no longer there. They traded him away last year, so they still have to revamp some things.
No, and I think I'm not against it at all, because I think they've been linked to Russell Wilson right now, and it's like, okay, if Russell can come in now, what you kind of hope that Russ, like, especially watching the evolution of Jerry Jeudy with Jameis Winston, shout out to Malik Neighbors. If Jameis is starting in New York, Malik's about to get 200 targets this year. He's about to blow up the league with Jameis throwing the rock to him. But we saw that natural evolution of Jerry Jeudy kind of becoming the guy we saw at Bama. Now that he had a quarterback that not like Jameis wasn't a top 10 quarterback, but he got him the football. Like he got him the ball on time where he needed it and allow him to be Jerry Jeudy. Russell Wilson didn't do that when he was in Denver. So it's going to be interesting if they can get on the same page. But I agree, they do need to add another receiving piece. I know Cleveland Brown fans probably still like, man, after what they went through with Deshaun and everything, they want a quarterback. But hey, if you got especially understanding at the same time, you got to deal with Lamar Jackson. You got to deal with Joe Burrow. We don't know who's going to be in Pittsburgh, probably Aaron Rodgers. You got to deal with some quarterbacks. Having 2 legit edge rushers to get off, and then also to your point, Keith, the off-ball stuff, JOK, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, like he might not, we don't know if he's going to play again because of that neck injury he suffered. So if he's hurt and or if he's out for a lengthier period of time, you got a guy that can step in at off-ball backer, but also walk down the edge. They got Michael Hall that they drafted last year in the second round. Yeah, that front four, like they can get after you with 4 if they go Abdul Carter. Key, when you made that decision, I said, okay, yeah, Giants, Brian Daboll, I'm gonna help you out. I'm gonna give you Shedeur Sanders. I'm gonna give you the quarterback. I'm not gonna listen. I'm not listening to whatever tea leaves are out there. I'm giving them a quarterback. And then when you sign a guy like Jameis Winston, what does that do for you? Like, stick to whatever your plan is. If you get a chance to draft Shedeur, but you sign Jameis, let Jameis start. You're not a playoff contender. I just want to burst that bubble now. You're not a team that is. When I say playoff, you're not a team that is expected to make the playoffs and make a run. So you don't have to start Shedeur, and that pressure to start Shedeur. Teams have folded because of fan pressure too many times. Stick with your plan. Let Jameis start. If Jameis starts to be Jameis, week 6, 7, 8, or 9, and you start seeing interceptions, and he's talking about, going to the prayer line at church to get those pick 6 demons off of him or whatever he was talking about. If that stuff starts to happen, then you can go ahead and ease Shedeur in, but also let Shedeur sit behind an established veteran who's seen it all and done it all. He's got a 30 for 30 himself, and it's not directed by ESPN. It was just all him, So I just think that's the move for the New York Giants, and I think putting Shedeur with Brian Daboll and Malik Neighbors, oh yeah, I'm all in on that. I'm all the way in on that. Giving him Malik Neighbors an accurate quarterback. We saw what he looked. Keith, we saw what he looked like the last time he had an accurate quarterback, and that was at LSU. Now, granted, he dominated last year too with Daniel Jones and the cast of characters at quarterback. But give me Shedeur, baby. Give me Shedeur to throw the rock long term to Malik Neighbors. Keith, I want to ask you at number 4. Patriot fans are not going to be happy with it because they're not happy with the thought of it anyway, because they're like, oh, his arms are too short. What made you decide to say, you know what, let me get Will Campbell, especially with Travis Hunt on the board, where you probably could have just drafted him to play wide receiver and give them a kind of wide receiver 1 in a sense. Why did you go Will Campbell over a weapon?
Yeah, I mean, they better, Patriots fans could be mad, but they better understand who their head coach is. Their head coach is Mike Vrabel. This is a guy that's going to want to run the football. He was there in the early 2000s where they won a lot of football games, including Super Bowls, by running the ball and playing good defense. Not saying that that's the recipe that will win now, but it will look like some type of version of that. And you win by getting the trenches together, right? Like, in what could be potentially more important than having a wide receiver is an offensive tackle that can help and block a blind side. Now, I asked myself this, that, okay, Will Campbell, his arms are short. Oh man, he has to play guard. Okay, cool. Tell me if this guy's an all-pro guard, will you be mad? Right? Like, our Dallas Cowboys fan mad with Zach Martin? What's my guy with the Colts? Right? Like, are people mad with the? I'm trying to think of the guard.
Quentin Nelson.
Yeah, Quentin Nelson. Like, is he a bad player because he played? Like, was Marshall Yonder not a Hall of Famer because he played center? Like, what are we talking about? So if you have that type of upward trajectory on him, I think you try him out at tackle, and then you allow him, and then you kick him inside the guard. But this guy he's a mauler. He's built the right way. He's been playing in the SEC since he was a freshman, true freshman, right? Finished high school and went to playing against the likes of Will Andersons and things like that. So he's seen a lot. He's done a lot. If you feel like he can't play tackle at all, then you kick him inside the guard, and you potentially have an all-pro guard.
Nah, I like that synopsis, Keith, and I'm gonna close it out. We had 2 wide receivers in the first round, in the first top 10 picks. Tetaiora McMillan to the Las Vegas Raiders. I love that. I think you made that selection. I think you made both of those selections. Matter of fact,
I went aggressive, baby. I said, you know what? Let's add fuel to the fire. Let's get it.
I like the thought process.
Yeah, like you talk about Geno Smith needing another weapon. You get T-Mac right in a big body wide receiver that he is, and then you add that with Brock Bowers. I think now this Las Vegas Raiders offense starts to paint a picture, right? Like you start to have something that they could key in. And then with the Carolina Panthers, listen, let's figure it out. Is Bryce the man or not? Right? Let's get him another weapon. You drafted Xavier Legette. You started to pay dividends. Last year, we thought that there was a much better wide receiver core, and then we learned about week 8. This ain't it either, right? So get him Matthew Golden. He's used to vertical field stretchers. I don't know if because I've heard the context of not wondering if Matthew Golden play speed is that fast. I feel like he's that fast. I feel like partially the issue is the same thing we said about Xavier Worthy. Like, is that Quinn Ewers' arm strength just wasn't being able to push the ball 60 yards down the
capitalize on that speed.
Yeah, so it's like a lot of times you see it. Matthew Golden had to slow down some too. So even if he's not a 4.29 or 4.35, it's plenty fast enough, right? You're talking about play speed.
Yes, 4.4 is fast enough.
So get him a vertical field stretcher, and that's why I went with those two wide receivers. I think those are wide receiver needy positions. But DP, I know there's a whole lot to go right, including is there a new RB1? We're gonna have that conversation coming up next.
Ever check your bank account and asked and wondered, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. All in one convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can just use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan those long-term goals that you have for yourself and for your family. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first month. Again, that's monarchmoney.com by using the code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's right, you heard it. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories to even who you believe will be cutting down the nets when it's all said and done. Stay in the action. With tournament games happening almost every day, there's always something exciting to bet on. The FanDuel app is simple, safe, and easy to use. And when I win, I get paid instantly, no waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Again, visit FanDuel.com today and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Picks 11 through 20. We have the San Francisco 49ers getting Will Johnson, cornerback out of Michigan. At 12, the Dallas Cowboys select Omarion Hampton, running back from North Carolina. At pick 13, the Miami Dolphins select Malachi Starks, safety from Georgia. At pick 14, the Indianapolis Colts select Colston Loveland, tight end out of Michigan. At pick 15, the Atlanta Falcons select Jihad Campbell, linebacker / edge from Alabama. Pick 16, the Arizona Cardinals select Michael Williams, edge rusher from the University of Georgia. At pick 17, the Cincinnati Bengals select Tyler Booker, interior offensive lineman from Alabama. At pick 18, the Seattle Seahawks select Jalen Walker, linebacker / edge from Georgia. At pick 19, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Mike Green, edge rusher from Marshall. And at pick 20, the Denver Broncos select Tyler Warren, tight end out of Penn State. Keith, let's go up to the top. Let's start with number 12, and we can circle back to number 11. I think that's an interesting fit there. But the Dallas Cowboys, they've been linked to running back at 12 this entire draft. Since the season ended and we knew the draft order was going to be, everybody's been Ashton Jeanty. Lose Zach Martin. He was like, oh, maybe they don't go running back, right? And you got a lot of Cowboy folks who are like, listen, if we're trying to win, an interior offensive lineman is not the move to make at 12. I don't know if I agree with that because you got to protect Dak. But nonetheless, especially losing a guy like Zach Martin, giving them Amari and Hampton, your RB1, the RB1 of this first RB off the board. What made you go Amari and Hampton over like an interior offensive lineman or something like that?
Yeah, I just at this point, and obviously offensive line is important, but they've invested into the offensive line over the past few years, right? They went and drafted Cooper Beebe. They drafted Tyler Smith. They drafted what's our guy out of Oklahoma last year?
Tyler Guyton.
Yeah, Tyler Guyton. I knew it was two Tylers. So they put assets into it, right? And I think that you're trying to find starters and impact guys. The Cowboys are so top heavy as a team. Talk about Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, and then who? That's almost how the Dallas Cowboys are, right? They have to become a more well-rounded team with impactful players. And so I looked at the opportunity like, hey, could they double back in the second round, right? And that's the thing. Maybe we need to do like a 2-round mock, right? To kind of paint a picture.
I think so.
Which could be fun. Like, could you get a Tate Ratledge, right, in the second round and then plug him at guard? And I like Tate. Tate might be offensive guard, maybe 2 for me in this class. So could you grab him or his teammate Jared Wilson and put him at center or guard also, who I like I said, like I think both of those guys are probably the top 3, like 2 inside the top 3 are both at Georgia for me at this point. And so I look at, hey, you go get Amari and Hampton. When Dak doesn't have his fastball, you got a big bruising running back. And like I said, I comped him to Ezekiel Elliott. They remind me so much of each other, just play style wise. And even Ezekiel wasn't like a home run hitting type of back, but you give him the ball 25 carries and then you look up and it's 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, right? And you're like, man, that man had a day, right? But it wasn't a Saquon Barkley 80-yard run in there. It was just 10, 12, 12, 18, 6, 12, 10, 8, right? Like, it's just like, oh, man, he just pounding the rock. I see the same exact thing with Amari and Hampton.
No, I like that. I think my comp, I've gone back and forth with comps. I think I comped it to David Montgomery, just probably a faster version of David Montgomery, as we saw at the combine with that 4.44, 4.46 or whatever that he ran. I like that, Keith. And I think it's crazy. We have the same thought process as you were talking. I'm like, man, you could go day 2, get Jared Wilson, put Jared Wilson at center, and then move Cooper Beebe right back to guard. And now you have a more refined interior offensive line.
I agree 100%. And that's why I went with it. But we want to keep looking at a couple of them. DP, I want to ask you, because we talked about a couple of my picks. What were a couple of your picks that you like?
Man, Will Johnson falling to the San Francisco 49ers. They've lost a lot, and I know that you could maybe make a case for, and I'm not gonna lie, it crossed my mind. It was very compelling to go tight end and give him like Colston Loveland, a Tyler Warren, a pair with George Kittle. But for me, the only reason why I didn't do that is because Kyle Shanahan hasn't shown that he's willing to feed George Kittle. So I'm not going to give you another tight end that you're not going to feed the rock to. George Kittle, if he was in Kansas City or with a different situation, George Kittle would be not just an all-pro talent, and I think he's made some all-pros. George Kittle would be literally like one of the leading like top guys receiving wise. Like you would have to double George. The same way we talk about Travis Kelce, you would have to do the same thing to George Kittle. He's that good of a receiving tight end. They just don't feed him the ball. So I said, no. And I realized Will Johnson's sitting right there. You lose Charvarius Ward and everything. I know they got was it Ronaldo Green they drafted last year?
Yeah, Ronaldo. Yep.
Like they got some young pieces. And I'm like, man, you put especially with Robert Saleh coming into this back home and running this defense. I think Will Johnson playing off coverage, letting him read and react, trigger downhill. I think Robert Saleh is the type of guy that will emphasize tackling and get him back to 2023 version of tackling that we saw from Will Johnson and everything prior to the injury in 2024. I said, listen, you go BPA, man. Like at the end of the day, I think where the San Francisco 49ers are trending, especially if you're going to pay Brock Purdy, at least make sure that your defense can keep you win games. I don't think you're going to be able to win games the way you won games on a rookie contract, Brock Bowers, with Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk. I don't think you're going to be able to win it that same way. I said build up this defense. Now you got a all-star type of caliber talent in the back end to pair with a Nick Bosa rushing the passer in the front end. I think that's why for me it was one of my favorite picks is going cornerback one or going a top cornerback to the San Francisco 49ers and kind of retooling this defense a little bit.
Yeah, no, I like that pick too a lot. I think it's gonna be one of those things where we're gonna look back 5 years from now and be like, oh wait, the San Francisco 49ers drafted the best corner who was obvious, and then now he's an all-pro for him, and then everybody was like, man, how did the 49ers keep on doing it? Like, this is why those teams are consistently at the top, is because other teams and other franchises, they listen to the outside noise and factor in things that don't have to do directly with football. And
Stop
then
overthinking.
they overthink the process. Cut the film on, watch the film, see who's good, who's not. Draft the good ones, don't draft the bad ones, right? It's that simple, or it should be
It's
that
very
simple in
simple.
some context. Real quick before we transition, 2 picks, and one was made by you, one was made by me, back to back. But I thought it was a fun little 2-pick back to back situation. Was the Falcons taking Jahad Campbell and then the Cardinals taking Michael Williams? I think both situations where there's tremendous upside with those guys, right? And I think with the Falcons taking Jahad Campbell, it's like, okay, cool. Are they going to put him as edge rusher? Does he answer the edge rusher position for them? Or are they going to slide him? I mean, keep him as stack backer and let him just kind of roam on that second level. And then with Michael Williams, like you said, the upside, the potential is there. If you watch just the Texas games from this season, this guy's probably going top 5, right? But it's everything else in providing the consistency for him to try to see, like, hey, can we get that? And then you talk about the Cardinals, they already have Darius Robinson. So you have 2 heavy-handed rushers, and then you get a healthy BJ Ojulari. Jonathan Gannon can probably start to have the front 7 that he wanted, that kind of started to mimic and replicate what he had in Philadelphia when he was the defensive coordinator over there.
No, I like that. And I think also with Michael bringing in the run defense, that's an area that they needed to improve on that Arizona Cardinals defense. Stopping the run. You know, Seattle's going to try to run the ball. You know, San Fran's going to try to run the ball or going to run the ball. Like, you have to, the Rams are going to run the ball as well. Stop the run, put them in disadvantages for themselves, 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 7s, 3rd and 9s, when now you can kind of get really creative with that 4-man rush, with his Michael on the interior alongside Darius Robinson. You got BJ Ojulari, Josh Sweat, Baron Browning. You can get creative and let Jonathan Gannon get in his bag to pressure these quarterbacks.
Yep. I agree 100% with DP. Let's do this, man. We have some good defensive picks at the end. So coming up next, man, we're going to talk picks 21 through 32, see which guys fell, but they fell to great situations. We'll talk about that coming up next.
Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our every day. It's picks 21 through 32. The Pittsburgh Steelers select interior defensive lineman nose tackle Derek Harmon out of Oregon. Pick 22, the Los Angeles Chargers select Ashton Jeanty, running back from Boise State. Pick 23, the Green Bay Packers select Azariah Thomas, cornerback from Florida State. At pick 24, the Minnesota Vikings select Kenneth Grant, interior defensive lineman from Michigan. At pick 25, the Houston Texans select Great Zabel, offensive lineman from North Dakota State. At pick 26, the Los Angeles Rams select Kelvin Banks, offensive lineman out of Texas. At pick 27, the Baltimore Ravens select cornerback Jahdae Barron out of Texas. At pick 28, the Detroit Lions select James Pierce Jr., edge rusher from Tennessee. Pick 29, the Washington Commanders select Donovan Ezeroku, edge rusher from Boston College. At pick 30, the Buffalo Bills select Walter Nolan, interior defensive lineman from Ole Miss. At pick 31, the Kansas City Chiefs select Josh Connolly Jr., offensive tackle from Oregon. At pick 32, the Philadelphia Eagles select Shamar Stewart. I'm going to start right here at 32. Getting Shamar Stewart. This is a team that they don't overthink many things, right? Like the picks they make and the picks they've made, people question. The Jordan Davis, how many snaps is he going to play? How impactful is he going to be? Jalen Carter, like, oh, you worry about the off-the-field stuff. Nolan Smith, he wasn't really refined coming out. It's always been questions with some of the stuff they've done. And yet they just won the Super Bowl. And they won the Super Bowl, Keith. I think for them, if anybody should say trust the process, it's not the Sixers because it's not working out right now. It's the Philadelphia Eagles. They should absolutely be like, hey, trust our process. I think this is a situation. You get yourself another high-end, toolsy athlete who's physical, has everything you want in the edge rusher, right? To then develop him. Watching how the development has gone for Nolan Smith, 6.5 sacks this year, almost 30 pressures. He wasn't even a full-time starter, and he had a run at the end of the year throughout the playoffs into the Super Bowl where you started to see, okay, things are clicking for him. If you can do that for Nolan Smith, I think this is a team that can do that for Shamar Stewart. And then we look back 3-4 years later and people are like, how does Shamar Stewart fall to pick 32? Well, everybody else overthought it. The Philadelphia Eagles said thank you.
Yep, no, 100%. And I actually like this spot for Shamar Stewart, just because obviously there's the situation with the sack production and things like that. But if there's ever a spot where he doesn't have to come in and it's immediate pressure to be a 10, 12, 15 sack guy, it's like, hey, it's with the Philadelphia Eagles. You're playing a rotation. You're playing around other talented guys. You're playing around other young guys who've kind of now they've been there, done that as far as making a run to the Super Bowl and winning, but also been there, done that in the capacity of, hey, we came in as highly touted prospects and with a lot of pressure, and we understand, like, kind of block out the noise, right? Like, just focus on the craft, focus on playing on the defense, and the rest of the results to take care of themselves. Because at the end of the day, if you have 7, 8 sacks, but they got to call you Super Bowl champ, right? Like, it is what it is at the end of the day. So you just find a different way. You're finding different ways to get it done. Couple picks, DP, that I liked in this stretch, I thought kind of, did a good job with would be, I like the Donovan Izariki. I think you made that pick to the Washington Commanders. I think this is a guy that people are just not discussing enough. And we've said it before on this podcast. I think he's one of the most naturally skilled and gifted, like almost seemed like he's born to rush the passer, right? I think he has that type of ability, and nobody's talking about him as that consistent 10-plus sack guy in the NFL, and I think he very well could be, and it's exactly what the Commanders need. They need an ace in the hole guy. Like, they need somebody that can, like you always say, that can go get a bucket, right? When you need a bucket, they could go get it, and Donovan Izariki definitely has that.
No, and that was a pick that I liked a lot too, because they have the interior offensive line. They just signed Javon Kinlaw. They have Daron Payne, Jerzon Newton. They drafted last year. That's why they were able to release a Jonathan Allen, because teams weren't trying to give you picks when they know you want to get rid of them. You know what I mean? Like, so you had to you release them, but you release them because you have the necessary needs at the position. Now let's go get a guy that needs to go get after Dak Prescott, that can get to Dak Prescott, that can get to Jalen Hurts, that can get to, in this situation, Shedeur Sanders in New York via our mock draft. You need that true edge rusher. We just, like, over in your neck of the woods, Chase Young just signed a deal with the New Orleans Saints. He had a good season last year for the most part, right? You probably could have kept him. You know what I mean? I don't know why you traded him in the first place, but you probably could have kept him. Opened up a hole on your team that you didn't need to deal with. But nonetheless, I think Donovan Izariki 100% is a great fit for them. Keith, I'm going to go to the Baltimore Ravens, getting Jahdae Barron. And Brandon Stevens was, I think, their most targeted DB last year. And everything. They let him walk in free agency. And so you have Nate Wiggins, you have Marlon Humphrey, you have Kyle Hamilton and everything like that. And getting another guy in this secondary helps a lot, especially knowing that you have to deal with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins for sure for the foreseeable future. Like, there's no question now. Both of them got paid. Now you got to know, you have to deal with those guys. And that is a problem. So for me, I thought about edge rusher here. I'm not going to lie. Kind of like once I made the Donovan Izariki pick, I was like, I should have made that to Baltimore. That made a lot of sense. but getting Jahdae Barron, I think his ability to play nickel and outside, and then, like I said, you go to the nickel situation. If you feel good with Marlon Humphrey playing on the outside along with Nate Wiggins, you could kick Jahdae Barron inside, or if you want to play him outside and just let him side a bailout, trigger downhill, take away those big explosive plays. That happened a lot on that the right defensive side of the field, where they targeted Brandon Stevens. Like, they isolated him a lot last year, and they went down the field on him, man. So I think this was a pick to me that I really, really like. I think it was a really good fit for the player and for the team to both to be a good fit, but also improve that secondary.
Yep, I agree 100% with DP. That wraps up this episode, man. Our first dueling mock, and you can look for more to come from us over here, Locked On NFL Draft on March 24th. Yes, it's my birthday, so I'm feeling good. We're doing mock drafts early in the morning. Brother. We having a good time over here, but make sure to stay tuned to us, because next week we might do a 2-round mock, right? And then be able to show you the complimentary things that we're trying to do with these teams and keep it going, keep it flowing. But you know where to tap in each and every single day. Listen, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying Shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listen is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube wherever you listen to podcasts to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. As always, guys, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydays. On tomorrow's show, we are getting into our top 10 post-combine, post-free agency RB rankings for the 2025 NFL Draft. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.